Hey guys, so today I'm going to be talking about the most recent Dracula changes because I've been seeing a lot of people on, or not a lot of people, some people on Twitter and YouTube, Twitch, whatever, DVD forums. People are like, oh my goodness, this new shapeshift cooldown for Dracula is making him incredibly overpowered. And then they list a scenario of something that he was already able to do that has nothing to do with the shapeshift cooldown, and it doesn't make sense to why people are thinking this all of a sudden change to make him feel more fluid is making him overpowered, right? Because they've done plenty of changes recently where they have reduced cooldowns or even removed them, and they made the killers more fluid, and they don't feel like shit. Think about the twins reworks, right? Victor used to have a 5-second cooldown on downing someone, which was really annoying to try and, snowball, especially when multiple people are nearby. But also, simply just switching back to Charlotte after the 5-second cooldown took another 2 seconds, and you had to wait through 8 seconds of cooldown before you could switch to Charlotte and then start walking to the slug person, which ultimately led to people being slugged on the ground longer and giving them more time to use perks like Unbreakable and pick up their teammates. They removed and reduced those cooldowns, and then twins felt a lot more fluid. It didn't make them some incredibly higher, stronger killer than they already were, It was just a slight quality of life change that gave them a little bump up in their power level. And I think that's what they did to Dracula exactly here. They did the same thing with Knight. Knight had 3 guards. They all had their own cooldown. However, there was a 4th cooldown where you would have to, when you summoned a guard and started to use another one, the guard will go on cooldown and all your guards would go on cooldown. So it was like a communal 4th cooldown. Dracula has the same thing, right? Bats have a TP cooldown, Hellfire has its own cooldown, and Wolfpounds has its own cooldown as well. And then the Shapeshift cooldown prevents you from switching between all those cooldowns right away. Before, the 5-second cooldown felt really, really clunky because you wanted to try and combo some things together or simply just close the gap a little bit quicker with bat form, and you're stuck having a 5-second cooldown where you're just kind of flying in circles around the survivor waiting for the cooldown to end before you actually land on them, which was just kind of weird because the shapeshift cooldown being 2.5 seconds just gets rid of all that moment, all that time where you and the survivor are just waiting to see what you're going to do, just waiting for the cooldown to end, right? Where I think it is now, it is perfectly set up to react to on the survivor side, but also you're not just sitting there waiting. It's like the exact perfect number how it is now. A lot of people were also saying, like, their arguments were, now he's able to switch to bat form, fly over a pallet, switch back, and then get the hit, or fly over the pallet, catch up to me, and get the hit, right? And that's just not true. If you see him fly over the pallet while you're trying to leave Shack Pallet after you just dropped it and go to another loop, just double back to Shack Pallet, wait there, and then vault to the opposite side of wherever he transforms. He does not transform fast enough to hit you vaulting over a pallet as long as you react the second he starts to transform. And there is plenty of audio cues and visual cues to do that. I've tested this in customs, and I will show footage here at the end on how you can do this as Survivor if you are struggling the counterplay to bat form for Dracula. But I would just like to point out that you are able to do that. If you see him trying to ignore the pallet, force him to play around it, force him to break it, because that's what you do against a lot of killers. Killers like Nurse and Blight and Spirit and Chucky and Billy and Bubba and Huntress and Trickster. If you go out in the open after dropping a pallet, Huntress is going to hit you with a hatchet if you're not pathing properly. Nurse, Spirit, Blight, like all the dash killers, are just going to break the pallet, dash, and catch up to you, or they're not going to break the pallet, they'll just go around, dash, and catch up to you. Like, that's part of playing Survivor, is forcing the killer to break the pallet and leaving when it is safe, You shouldn't be leaving the pallet against a killer that can counter that. And it doesn't mean the killer is OP that they can counter that, because there are several other killers, like the ones I listed, that do that all the time, and they are definitely not considered to be overpowered killers, especially not when you look at killers like Trickster or I would say Billy, pre-buff Billy, but it goes for the same thing at Windows, right? If you want to get the hit as Dracula, you basically have to trick the survivor into vaulting into you while you transform, right? So it's similar to Vecna's fly ability. A lot of the times Vecna players will fake fly for half a second, like they're going to go over the pallet and hit you, and then the survivors will be like, oh shit, and then they vault over the pallet into the Vecna, and then he gets a hit, right? You kind of have to do that same thing with Dracula. However, there is a lot more time for the survivor to react to that because obviously the shapeshift cooldown is going to be preventing you from just instant M1ing, especially after the bug fix where you can no longer like instantly swing out of bat form. So you can do the same thing at Windows. The only real way you're gonna get a hit as Dracula is if the survivor just spam vault, panics, and then vaults into you, which a lot of people do. And I assume those are the people who are going on Twitter and DVD forums and YouTube and Twitch and complaining, "Oh my goodness, Dracula's OP. I don't know how to counter bat form." When all they have to do is play calm, react to him transforming, and go to the other side of the loop, right? This was stuff he was already capable of doing with the 5-second shapeshift cooldown. The only difference is he would go over the pallet and be stuck waiting there for an additional 2.5 seconds before he switches back and then tries to get the hit or tries to get the survivor to vault into him. Having a 2.5-second cooldown doesn't change the fundamental gameplay or mind games that Dracula does. It just adds a weird waiting period there where the survivor and killer are basically waiting on a cooldown before they can continue their chase. And it's just, it made him more fluid. It made Twins more fluid, Knight more fluid. I don't think this is something that people should be complaining about. There's plenty of counterplay, and I will show you here at the end of it. For those of you who are also interested, I am going to be making a complete Dracula guide on how to play Dracula. I'm going to spend some time gathering as much information that I can on how to play Dracula and how to use them at certain tiles and loops. And once I have learned all my own text and stuff, because I'm not really, I do ask some other people to learn some stuff, but all of the texts that I will be showing you are ones that I've come up with. I have 4 scenarios for playing around the palette, and then 3 scenarios for playing around Windows. I'll be putting that all into the guide, and then maybe in the future I can make a guide for playing against Dracula, because I know some survivors who want to see that stuff would really like some tips, because I do have people asking for tips like that in my chat sometimes. So I hope you guys enjoy these following clips. They're just to showcase scenarios where the survivor can outplay the killer. So basically what I'm going to show here is for a window and a pallet, right? The scenarios that people are talking about, the people that are complaining about, is shack pallet gets thrown. So you can throw shack pallet. And then people are like, oh yeah. And then they throw shack pallet, they just switch to bat form, they fly over shack pallet, and they catch up to you, right? Well, if you're trying to run to the next loop and you know that he's able to do this, just stay at the shack pallet. You have no reason to leave. You want to force the killer to break the pallet just like you would any other killer that has really good zoning potential, you know? Especially like range killers and dash killers. So when I transform here, I'm going to try and predict what side they're on, but no matter what I do, if they react perfectly, I'm not going to be able to get the hit. Oh, they're not here. Okay. Oh, we'll try it again. Just do what we were doing at customs the other day. Be on the same side. That was me clicking as fast as possible. For people who are not going to believe that, it is the same thing. It's about a second, maybe a little bit more. And the fast vault, since there's no medium vault at a pallet, you can guarantee as survivor if you react fast enough, you're not going to get the hit. And I'm even using Traveler's Hat add-on, which causes me to shapeshift 10% faster, which means I can M1 10% faster, right? This is not an issue for survivors. It's not like there's no counterplay. Pallets are still completely safe for survivors. They just need to know how to play it, you know? Okay, we'll start it from the outside. And now, yeah. Yeah, okay. See exactly what I'm saying? If the survivor has enough time, they can vault. A lot of times, survivors will predict when I am going to basically shapeshift, because they can obviously see you in bat form, which is unlike Spirit, right? You can't see Spirit, you can just kind of guesstimate where she is. They can see where you're going with bat form, so they know exactly like what I'm going to try and do here. So if you're a smart survivor and you know, like, hey, their cooldown's back, they're going to try and shapeshift. The second I go to this side and the killer like stops for just a second, you can already be vaulting right before I hit. You know, I was able to hit there because I caught them a little bit off guard. But if you're playing perfectly, you're not going to be able to get hit, and especially not if you're fast vaulting. The fact that you can get away with it with medium vaulting is already kind of nutty for the survivor's point of view. You know, because pallets, it makes sense. There's no medium vault. There's only fast vaults for pallets. Windows, obviously, you're not going to be able to hit the fast vault. It's incredibly quick. Medium vaults, you can sometimes hit. It's kind of a 50-50 gamble at Windows, which is its own thing. But all of this stuff before was possible with or without the 5-second shapeshift cooldown.